My name is Joyce Fitzpatrick, and I am delighted to be doing this set of webinars, which focuses on all the things that we can do to flourish at this time. I think it's a wonderful idea, and I'm very happy to be asked to take part in this. My background is in botany and ecology. I'm very interested in nature and gardening and all of that, as some of you will know who've heard me before. So behind me here, I selected a number of different posters that we would remind us about what this time is all about. I would like to welcome all of you who have come for your own interest, for your families, carers, and for anybody who works within the area of activities. I hope to have lots and lots of ideas for you around the subject of water, and I will be sharing the screen to show some lovely pictures and have some lovely sounds of water, etc., in a couple of minutes. I think that there is something about this time of year, the 1st of June, where we can celebrate all that it is to be young, full of life. It is a time for memories, wonderful memories of childhood. And sometimes those memories don't come easily to us. We need to have photographs or pictures in front of us, or we need to actually be there on the beach, by the pond, by the river, sitting beside a canal, or simply in our own back garden with a fountain or a hose or a little pond or something. I know a lady who sits in her garden in front of a bowl of water, and she floats different flowers on the water in the morning, and sometimes a few leaves as well. She has to drop them very gently onto the water, and it gives her great delight. Also, it's lovely to watch a bird come to a bird bath and really enjoy himself or herself, washing down all the dust of the day. We ourselves enjoy water in our daily life. We bathe, we clean ourselves with it, we cool our brow, we drink it, we use it to wash everything. Look how many times in the last 2 years water was our best friend. Water is a magical substance, and I want to get to that by the end of this session, the absolute magic of water. In the meantime, we're going to look at well-being and health and nature, and I hope you'll enjoy that. This series is looking not just at nature, but at music, and we can't think of water without thinking of the music of water and the music of other creatures who live in and around water. For example, here we have the birds, the wonderful birds, a lovely poster here of the sea and cliff birds of Ireland. So if you're anywhere near the coast, you will hear the squawk of the seagulls, the flapping of the wings. You'll see the gannets diving in for fish. You'll see the cormorants drying their wings beside the sea, if you're lucky enough to be by the sea. If you live in other parts of Ireland, you will be very lucky to go by rivers and see how birds enjoy rivers, how they go there for their food, for washing, for entertainment, the same as we do. I also have a lovely poster here of the ducks of Ireland, the diving ducks of Ireland. These wonderful ducks fill our parks, and it's a lovely activity to go and to feed the ducks, to bring a little bit of boiled rice or something nice for them to eat. So all around us, we have the sound of birds, we have the sight of them, but not just birds, we have insects too. We have the bumblebee coming down to have a drink before he or she is able to digest the honey in the hive. They must have a drink of water first. We look at our insect life and how it's completely dependent on water. We're going to be contemplating the sea during this session, all the lovely seaweeds that grow How we can collect them and add them to our garden to add nutrition to the garden. We'll be talking about shells and all the creatures of the sea and how they can enrich our lives. Just the other day, we made razor shell lamps on jam jars, which I will do later in the series, show all the crafts that we can do associated with water. But now I'd like to share the screen and give you some images that might inspire you to do activities this summer all around water. Water is such a magical substance. It has been here for such a long time on Earth, and it is the solvent for everything. We know that all life began in water. It is the source from which we all came. We're dependent on water all of our life, and sometimes we don't give it a thought. Maybe it's time for us to stop and think of it as a gift. I wonder, do you remember back to a time when you were so young that just to sit beside the sea, lapping in beside you, and digging a hole and watching it fill with water, the wonder of that. I wonder if you remember back to that time, feeling the cold seawater lapping in around your feet. It's lovely to think back at these times. At the same time, we have to think of the many who don't have water. Many struggle all their lives, and they have to walk many hundreds of miles in a week to carry the water back, even on their heads, back to the families and their animals. Drought can cause a lot of hardship, famine, and great losses. So let's appreciate our water and use it well and not waste it. Remember, water is a life giver. So if we don't waste it, we will appreciate it more. It is a giver. Water is our greatest resource. Consider for a moment how water has been your best friend, especially over the last 2 years. How many people just assumed that they had plenty of water to wash, to make their food, to sit beside, to enjoy? The water has been on the planet for millennia. It's been recycled again and again. Cool, clean, sparkling water. We know that when we look at this planet from outside, the planet is largely water. That's why it was called the blue planet. How lucky we are to live on a planet that is full of goodness. Water has protected us against the virus, cooled our brow, eased our coughs, and it has been our best friend. Thank you, water. Oh, how often we have needed the stillness of water in our lives. We know all the poems and the songs that bring us to the stillness of water. It helps us to relax. Of course, many people choose to be by water for their holidays. There's water sports, ski holidays, swimming, surfing, boating, as I did when I was a child on the Shannon. My God, what a wonderful way to spend a day. Fishing, scuba diving. Many people have gone on cruises and explored foreign places. Of course, let's not forget all the fun that is had on water, all the people that compete in water sports and will spend hours and hours every day just having fun on water, sailing and everything. Water brings people together and it creates memories. How many memories have you got of going swimming or paddling when you were a child? Do you remember bringing your own children or your own nieces and nephews down to water? These are the memories we want to stir now. And I would highly recommend using YouTube videos of people enjoying swim pools, like in this picture, people going into rivers, people fishing. I would say as an activity, there's nothing better in the summer. If you can't be there, at least to stir the memories of previous days. Oh, water is so exciting. It's so unpredictable. It's so full of vitality. we could just watch waves crashing in on the beach forever. One of the exciting things that I've always done in providing activities is to show the residents of the nursing homes storms, tornadoes, floods, especially chosen videos that are not too upsetting, where storms and tornadoes and wind surges have affected our planet. We also can go and look at the polar ice cap melting and those big icebergs dropping into the sea. It's exciting. Of course, water brings the sounds of rain and flowing water. They can be music to our ears. So we might just listen to this for 2 or 3 minutes. Yes, thank you, Danielle. There are so many resources now with our YouTube that we can have all kinds of things. Yesterday, I was in a place and we were thinking about the abundance of water. We were looking at Papua New Guinea and all these places, looking at tropical forests, all with the help of YouTube, looking at the living things that are there, the bower birds and the tropical birds, the insects and the frogs. There's such beauty in water. Water is very mysterious to us also. Its properties are many. The scientists are studying it all the time. All of us know that it's the greatest solvent of all time. You can leave your dishes in the sink overnight without any washing up liquid, and in the morning you'll be able to clean away any food because it is such a solvent. It has so many hidden mysteries. Beautiful, beautiful water. Think about the coral reefs. Just to go and spend a half an hour swimming underwater with the coral reefs is something you or I maybe cannot do today, but we can look at it on a screen and we can listen to the sounds. Oh, we are so lucky we have our rainbows in the sky. They are the greatest consolation after rain to see those. Just yesterday, we were looking at the aurora borealis, those wonderful lights in the sky that are only visible in the northern and southern poles. But again, these are wonderful for our older people to sit back for hours and look at these beautiful lights in the sky. Thank you. Don't forget bubbles. From early childhood, we knew what it was like to have bubbles, to blow them and watch them go on the wind. This is the incredible mystery of water, the surface tension that allows a bubble to reflect the whole scene in front of it. It's like a painting canvas. It travels on the wind and excites and delights our dogs as well as ourselves, who jump in the air to burst the bubbles. Water is so much fun. Water is just there for so many times in our lives. Do you remember the first time you saw your own reflection in water? This is a little girl, and she's so surprised to see her own self reflected back. That was lovely. I hope everybody enjoyed that and was inspired. On these series, I normally try to give as many practical activity ideas for people to do. Some of them were included in the slide there, but I have some more here beside me that I'd like to share with you. First of all, In the month of June, July, and August, which we have now just starting today, we can remember that the color blue is very exciting for a lot of people. If you ask most people what is their favorite color, almost everybody will say blue or green. Almost everyone. Some people will say yellow. Blue is a color that just brings so much happiness to us. So when we're planning our gardens and we're buying flowers for our gardens, if we think about the blues, and there are so many blues, I'm going to recommend some flowers that you might put in your garden so that in June, July, and August, you can feast your eyes on them. Here we have the blue geranium, which is not the old-fashioned geranium. It is the geranium, the herbaceous one that grows in the garden. Many, many people love that. Johnson's blue is one of them, and there are many more. This is aquilegia, this beautiful, beautiful flower, aquilegia, another blue. Here we have a bearded iris at the back of the vase, a very large flower. And it's a wonderful, wonderful flower to plant. This one and the others have been blooming for nearly 4 weeks in my back garden. They're delightful, about 3 feet tall. I have linaria, this lovely, lovely blue. And I have this seafoam, which, believe it or not, I picked on the beach here in Dublin, in Blackrock, where I live. The sea lavender, which only grows in places of great salinity. You go down to the south of France, you will see that growing everywhere along the beach, the edges of the salt mountains. Sea lavender, again, a blue. And then, of course, we have this lovely one. Oh, catmint, a wonderful, wonderful plant that is so aromatic. Cats love it. So if you have a cat, you'll have to have that in your garden. And then we mix in the lovely white flowers. This is rocket, which comes up every year if you remember to plant it early enough. We have alyssum. Alyssum is the little flower that we always grew along our borders, and it has such a strong, strong smell of honey that it's just lovely to have alyssum. It's a very old-fashioned plant and a lot of people like it. Don't forget we have lobelia and campanula also for the front of our flower beds. This is a plant that I was given and I absolutely love it. It's called Libertia grandiflora. Libertia, look at it, isn't that stunning? That has been flowering for, again, about 6 weeks, and it will continue to flower. Libertia grandiflora. And last but not least, we have the jasmine, everybody's favorite flower in the evening time, when the smell wafts into your room. Oh, what a glorious smell, the jasmine. You can have the jasmine growing over a fence or up a wall. Definitely worth it. So blue and white flowers at this time of the year in the garden remind us of water and holidays and happiness. For people who haven't been out gardening, you can also use artificial flowers or paper flowers. These are flowers which I've had for many years, and I love having them around the house because for all the fact they're there 12 months of the year, they still evoke happiness in us. There's something about the color blue. We've got sweet pea and allium and delphiniums and a sort of a lavender. We've got many different blues. So if you haven't got the garden full of flowers, surround yourself with blue at this time of the year. From early morning in the bath, blue. Bring blue into your life and it'll bring happiness. I have a tablecloth here that we always use in May for the May altar, a blue cloth. Also in June, we can have our picnics on it. These little beads might be a swallow hazard if you had them on the table, but in a jar, they're lovely with a lid tightly closed. They're wonderful, these beautiful, beautiful blue beads and many colors you can have in the garden pond. You can stick them on the bottom of a bowl, fill it up with water and float your flowers on top. Don't forget painting. This was given to me only 2 weeks ago by somebody. It is a lino print done again just with a little bit of blue ink. And here, of course, the wonderful kingfisher bird, this wonderful, wonderful bird who we see on our rivers and lakes. So there are so many things that we can do to bring blue into our life. Now, speaking of seaside, I want to mention the drawing that I am kind of addicted to at the moment. It's nature journaling. And these are razor shells that we collected only a week ago on the beach. Last year, I had collected them in Malahide and had drawn these razor shells, and a lot of people really enjoy looking at them and doing them. Here's some shells from Malahide Beach. So even if we're not good at drawing, we can copy or trace these things and color them in. And I would suggest the very best thing are colored pencils. They're really easy. You fill them in whenever you want. You can either get a water brush or just a paintbrush dipped in water, and then you can fill them in afterwards and you get, a delightful effect. This is my favorite plant in the garden at the moment. It's called Bowles Mauve. And that's a little sketch I did. And I'm no artist, but again, it's the watercolor pencil. If you see the detail of that, it works really, really well. Blue again, blue, blue, blue. Water is not just a wonderful resource. It's not just necessary for us, but it's full of magic. And just a few weeks ago, I was up in the north of Ireland in County Cavan. I was beside that lovely lake at the Lakeshore Hotel in Cavan. I think it's called, Lake Ennell, or I'm not sure. But a gentleman came over and gave me a bottle of water from a holy well down the road. Very lovely man, because I had been cleaning litter off the beach around the lake. I don't like to see litter, and I always bring a bag, so if I have some spare time. And he gave me this bottle as a present of water from a holy well. And that just reminds me that here in Ireland, we're very lucky to have such special places full of magic, full of hidden delights. And we're inclined to forget those. I'm going to suggest as an activity that you select a whole lot of water-based videos and you put them all together in a collection so that at the drop of a hat, you can watch something that's full of the sounds of water, the delights, the sights of water, and videos that will stir memories for people. And I really think this is a terrific way to reach people, is to give them what they want. And the only way we're going to do that is by knowing what they want, what they like. So I find if we have a family helping us and friends, we can make a very good profile of what people like and their needs and their wishes. And there are things that they really love and things that are important to them now. That's really important. That's their current reality. So my mother had Alzheimer's for 17 years, and she used to love horse racing, but she lost all interest in horse racing for some reason during the Alzheimer's time in her life. But she was fascinated by rivers, and we would walk the Dodder River every single day, 2 or 3 times, and we would just really enjoy looking at the willow, its catkins, its pollen, its flexibility. We would watch the birds landing in it. We watched the heron, the egret. We listened, stopped, and took out our camp chairs and listened to the gurgling of the water going under the bridges and dogs running down into the water to play. It was just fantastic. You know, the Dodder is a wonderful river. I think it's my favorite river in Ireland. We went there actually on a nature trip a couple of months ago, and we were contemplating the famine days in Ireland and all the history that happened around that river during that very sad time in Irish history. But the Dodder River, for example, has got a lot of other things to offer us. It's got a historical connection as well. So we know that Robert Emmet escaped into the Dublin Mountains via the Dodder River. We know our rivers are full of history. There's some lovely programs on the Tina G. We were watching one recently about the Liffey and the Poddle River in Dublin. And you can take a tour underground on the Poddle River, and you can think about all the history that made Dublin, what it is. If you're living in the country, you can go to the Midlands. You can look at Clonmacnoise on the wonderful River Shannon. Oh boy, what a beautiful place. You can see the River Barrow if you're down south, the magnificent Barrow River and all the wildlife that it brings. People from Cork want to be thinking about the River Lee. That just fills them with delight and all the songs associated with these rivers. Let us not forget the west of Ireland, of course, and the wonderful Corrib. I think it's my favorite place of all in Ireland, Lough Corrib. What a magnificent, beautiful place. We can go out to the islands, to Clare Island, where you just have so much water feeding the wonderful waxcap mushrooms that are there, wonderful seaweeds on the beach. We can go to the Aran Islands and Tory Island up north. We can go down to the Slobs in Wexford and see the puffin birds there. So everywhere in Ireland, there's water. It's bringing delight to us, bringing us health, bringing us happiness, and bringing us activities. Water is really a wonderful source for us. I mentioned earlier that my mother was very interested in the River Dodder, but also she loved washing clothes. It was one of her occupations, and dishes. She enjoyed anything to do with water. And we would hang the clothes out on the line, and then we would sit down and have a big pot of tea, looking at the clothes just blowing in the wind on the line. What a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. One of the pleasures of life that is long gone, unfortunately, you know. If we have our house plants, we can spend our time going around and watering them. That's a wonderful occupation. Maybe every Tuesday or Saturday or whatever, we can do that. And we can also wash our windows. We can wash our mirrors. We can decide we're going to clean up our jewelry and take out little brushes and washing up liquid and even a bit of gin, and we can clean our jewelry because water is there for us. It is absolutely magic. It is just such a wonderful resource. Okay, now a little word about biodiversity. We know that at the moment we need to be caring for our earth. We know that we need to be very focused on our plants and our insects so that we can have a balance of living things on the earth. The videos that David Attenborough has are absolutely wonderful viewing for us as we sit at home. Maybe we're not traveling like we used to do. I looked at one last night about water, and he mentioned how important it is that water is flowing all the time, refreshing, renewing everything, the land, bringing crops back, bringing insects and birds and reptiles back to where they belong. and sometimes how we've been, destructive in our use of water, building dams that we didn't need, etc. But that's all changing now, and that's a great thing. So we find when we look around, we find that our plants are doing well. We can think about our forests, and it's wonderful to know that everybody is planting more trees now, because we know we need our trees. So we can think about trees. We can get books, even in secondhand shops, wonderful books, and we can examine trees. We can think about our wildflowers, and we can get from the Natural Biodiversity Center, we can get these lovely charts on grasses, wildflowers, and everything. Absolutely wonderful. All of these things are dependent, of course, on water. We can introduce hedgehogs into our country, into our, where we live, leave habitats for hedgehogs, also frogs. I live in Blackrock, and just a week ago, somebody saw a badger up at Foxrock Church crossing the road. There are otters here down by the train station in Blackrock. I have heard, even in Galway, that some of the wild animals are coming into the city centre at night looking for food. Obviously, if we have our plants, we're going to have our insects, which are the most important living things on the earth, since everything else is dependent on the insects. I got some lovely charts, which I photocopy for the residents up in the local nursing home. And we go out and do a scavenger hunt in the summertime. People have these charts with them, and they're delighted when they find some creature, that they didn't know before, like maybe a shield bug or an earwig or something that they hadn't seen for years. These insects are completely dependent on water. I myself, just 2 days ago, saw a lacewing, beautiful, beautiful flying insect, who is a very pale lime green color. And it's just so exciting to see these things, totally dependent on moisture. There's a vine here, and just this year, it's coming into grapes, which it hadn't done before, I think, again, because of the availability of water. There are many songs that are associated with water. For example, April Showers, a lot of people know that one. South of the Border has a lot about water. What about Moon River? There's a lovely songs and poems. Patrick Kavanagh is a wonderful poet. He talks about the canal in Dublin, and he really writes beautifully. Leafy with love banks and the green waters of the canal pouring redemption for me. Absolutely fabulous. The poetry that is there, up the airy mountain and down the rushy glen. We daren't go a hunting for fear of little men. A lot of older people love these poems. The Stolen Child by W.B. Yeats. Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild. The Song of Wandering Angus, I went down to a hazel wood because there was a fire in my head, and picked a hazel branch and hooked a berry to a thread. Yes, there's a lot about fishing. There's a lot about being by water. We have the wonderful wild swans at Cool. The 19th autumn has come upon me since first I made my count. I saw before I had well finished, all suddenly mount and scatter, wheeling in great broken rings upon their clamorous wings. We're very lucky in Ireland here. We have such great tradition of water. all of these things really just help us to enjoy the summertime, to flourish. Which is the name of the series, is to get us to really enjoy being the best that we can be, the happiest that we can be, and to do the best that we can do. To flourish is a wonderful, wonderful word, to flourish. A lot of people during the last 2 years have used films about travel and looking at the lives of people who live on the coast and they go out fishing, and indeed, I suppose preserving birds who live out in islands. We've been watching Spring Watch and Autumn Watch and Winter Watch on the BBC channel. We have our own Birdwatch Ireland, has great programs and great outings and all the rest. The National Biodiversity Centre is encouraging us to take a really good look at the environment and to bring water in as often as we can. You're just reminding me, I need to go out pretty soon today now and water. I'm trying to conserve water in my garden by putting down a lot of mulch around my plants. But I wasn't here yesterday, and I'm just thinking my tomatoes and my lettuce and my cabbages, they all need a good drink of water. One of the lovely things is to have a sprayer, isn't it? And to mist your plants. I have a lovely thing here, a little fan that I got, which is, again, something that we can use for art and crafts. You can buy these in craft shops. They're lovely for decorating. Again, blue and white designs or whatever. And I would like to mention, for people who are always looking for ideas, that don't forget that collage is your number one best friend. When you're doing art with people who maybe don't find art easy, it's very easy to do collage. All you need is Pritt stick. You put it down, the Pritt stick, and you have cut out bits of flowers. In this case, this is like an iris. And it was just put down in a random way with stems, flowers, and that's the kind of inside of the flower. And I find that collage is a fantastic activity for a hot day. Even when you're outside in the garden, you can do it. During the pandemic, I am very happy to say that I had the wonderful opportunity of doing outdoor activities all summer for last year and the year before. We started off early in the morning with bird song in the garden, and we had all sorts of washing and tidying up went on, and then we did exercises, and we had a pot of tea in the garden, followed by nature activities where we had all of these wonderful charts to look at to stir the memories of plants and flowers and such. We also made things from seashells, and we had a seaweed display on the grass over on a big tablecloth. Then we got this wonderful marquee, and we decorated all of the marquee with big bunches of dried grasses in July, because the weather was very warm, and we tied them with cord and twine and hessian. And they were so beautiful. And people were saying, that's my bunch there. I did that. We had some straw, and we made bird nests out of the straw. We had baskets that we decorated with gingham material. From my husband had a shirt I cut up, blue and white gingham, onto the baskets. And we also made garlands in the garden. So outdoor activities, water activities, watching the squirrel and the birds come down to a bath, splash around. Yeah, it was lovely. I think any art activity that you can do for a while, leave by, and then maybe get back to is great. I want to say that I think what we all need to do is appreciate what we have around us and stop buying more things. I know I want to just really wind up with a story, very true story. a woman that I worked with a number of years ago was going blind. In fact, by the end of her life, she was not able to see at all. And everybody was quite distressed about that. And she wasn't at all. She was a very happy woman. And she said, I've had a wonderful life. You've no idea all the places I've been and all the things I've seen. She was fantastic. And I really said to her one time, can you remember the beauty, of the sea and the mountains and everything? Can you remember it all? She said, I can remember that the front and back of a blade of grass looks different. I thought that was a lovely story. She had taken the time to notice. So that's the challenge for all of us after today's webinar, is to say, how are you going to take time to enjoy water in your world, to appreciate it, to use it, but not abuse it, and to use it to remember, to restore, to rehabilitate, and to, rejoice in just being here, because it is truly magical, truly magical.